Hey y'all, welcome to the Deep Fried Freethinkers podcast. I'm Nathan Piccolo.
And I'm Twinkie D.
We invite you to sit down, stay a while, and enjoy our southern hospitality. In local and state news, we have the article written by Patsy Brumfield to start out with. She entitled it, 26 went down because it went too far.
And it did go down in flames.
Yes, it did. Let's see. One of the first questions she posed in there was Governor-elect Bryant must have gone to bed Tuesday night with a creepy feeling because, according to him, Satan won. This has been an ongoing thing here. Let's see. Bryant, he says this was a battle of good and evil of biblical proportions, and he was asking us to pray for those who are lost and may hear the cries of a child in its mother's womb if Satan wins.
Okay, just for the record, unborn babies, no matter what their size, they don't cry in the womb. Okay, I know there was that movie, The Silent Scream, but
yeah, that's
total pseudoscience. There is no screaming in the womb. So if we need to pray for anything, I think we need to pray for him to learn some freaking biology, Governor-elect. Learn some biology.
Well, it's no longer Governor-elect. Or is he still governor-elect until
He is now governor-elect because he won.
Oh, he is now? Okay. Obviously, I need to learn some politics. All right. This was something that they had Bryant Wildman Don Wildman, Roger Wicker, and Alan Nunnally. They were all held a press conference, and we did a release of that audio. You can find it on our blog. They thought this was going to be just an easy steamroll through Mississippi. What they failed to realize, as Patsy had brought out in her article, that the political experts readily admit that many Mississippi voters are independent. They don't affiliate with any party or label. They think for themselves, and they often deeply oppose governmental intrusion into their lives.
Absolutely.
Apparently, the AFA, Personhood, and the other backers of this, they didn't do their research. If they had checked with the political experts, as Patsy so kindly did, they would have said, "Ooh, yeah, we need to come at this a different way because, independent thinkers, those aren't going to be the people that just get out the way and let you pass on through with your message."
And that's exactly what they thought. They thought that they were going to just have the pastor say, "Okay, y'all." This is a vote against abortion, so make sure you go do the right thing on Tuesday. And, it was going to be a huge, sweeping success because, Mississippians are stupid and they're religious. And so, obviously, they'll do whatever we say. And basically, our response to that was, F you. Y'all can take that dog and pony show right back to Colorado. We don't want to hear.
As her article went on to say that the initiative posed a chasmic intrusion into a deeply personal aspect of our lives. Parents thought about their children and how this issue affected their choices later on. See, Mississippi is not the gullible type of people that they thought they were. They were not just sheep following whatever the church has to say or whatever the religious backing is. It is a independent thinking state. Maybe on the lower end of the poverty, but still independent thinking.
Right, and what this message I think needs to be to the rest of the nation is that there's hope for us, that there are people here who do think and who do care. Don't write us off, don't throw us away, help us change. That's what my appeal would be, is invest in us.
Yeah. And in another related article that was also in the same, this paper actually came out on Thursday. Let's see, I'll double check my pages here. So, okay, within 2 days of the election, they already have articles, the reactions of 26 passing. Okay. This other article is called Women Drive No Votes on 26. It is a paper by Emily Pettis. I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. I do apologize if I'm not. She goes on to quote a Kathy Sykes of Jackson. She is a Catholic and an abortion opponent, but she voted against 26. She believed that it would pave the way for government intrusion into private medical decisions such as birth control. Sykes went on to say, all the men are the ones who said to vote for it. They have the fun, and then the woman raises the child if the child then comes.
Couldn't agree more.
It really looks like they're reducing women's rights. They're not even considering women's rights in this matter. The men come in and they basically do their thing, enjoy their 20 seconds, and they're gone.
Yeah, they're out the door.
They're out the door. They've done what they needed to do. They procreated or took their chance at procreation and had a brain spasm.
Or some spasm.
Some spasm. Another thing to mention here is Personhood USA, the group itself, is actually trying very hard to get as many states to have this on their 2012 ballots. This article mentions that Montana, Ohio, Oregon, Nevada, and California, they have also got leaders on the movement in Florida, and they will attempt to get on the 2014 ballot. Another article that was written by Bobby Harrison, he went on to say, this is on Wednesday, he said he was frustrated because of the incorrect information about the initiative would do. And he's speaking of Governor-elect Bryant. Says there was various medical groups and others expressed concern about possible unintended consequences of the proposal that would jeopardize the life of the mother. He says, I have a very strong opinion about abortion, and sometimes I express them in that matter. The news conference that they had in Tupelo on Monday, where he made reference to Satan when talking about opposition to the proposal, and said that this is a battle of good and evil biblical proportion. This was not taken very kindly to those who were there and present that were opposed to it.
And it hasn't been taken very kindly by anybody else either.
No, it hasn't. It's hard for someone to be called a evil and Satanist when they're standing up for what they feel is right, or for something that they do not agree with. And this is your governor-elect calling you this.
Exactly, and this feeds into one thing that I'm really concerned about. I am very concerned that a lot of Mississippi voters, especially Christians, are going to have buyer's remorse. Not because they did the wrong thing, but because we have elected officials coming out making these baseless accusations against them. We have organizations like the AFA, which you're going to hear in a little bit, coming out and talking about these people, describing them as naive, gullible, that sort of thing. And then you have pastors in pulpits in local churches berating their congregations and calling them names for not voting appropriately. To me, this is a very serious problem. This, as far as I'm concerned, is bullying. And if it's happening in your church, if your pastor or other people are getting up and bullying you, even if they don't call you by name, you need to really sit down and think about why you're there. Because nobody deserves abuse, and that's abuse. It's abuse of your free will. It's abuse of your conscience.
And it's taken away your ability to think for yourself.
Absolutely. So, just a word there. If you're being bullied at your church, especially by your pastor, you might want to rethink that affiliation. And if you don't want to leave, I strongly encourage you to work to change that church. Because if you don't, nobody will. And this sort of foolishness has to stop. It's got to.
Yes, it does. Let's see. And in conclusion of this article, Bobby went on to quote Bryant in saying, "The people have spoken. One thing I have learned to do is listen to the people." Well, here we are. It's time to listen.
Yep. Absolutely. And something else I want to bring out about this name calling. The Yes on 26 campaign has been really big in comparing the Personhood Amendment to slavery and the Holocaust. And I have a real problem with that. Because I think anytime you do that, when you draw that analogy, which is inaccurate and very misleading, you diminish the suffering of the slaves, and you diminish and cheapen the horror of the Holocaust. So when you play fast and loose like that, I think really you're doing a bad thing. You're doing a disservice to your fellow man. You're not helping your cause. That's just really something that we should stay away from, is trying to draw these false analogies.
Agreed. All right, our next section is where we rummage through the local papers and find you the bad ad of the week. Today's bad ad is an ad for Vitachrom, which is basically a vitamin B shot. Notably on this ad was the little Jesus fish. And that's what drew our eye to do some a little more research. So no further ado, here's Twinkie.
All right. First of all, don't put the Jesus fish on your ads, because when you're down here, it's assumed everybody's a Christian. And frankly, that label doesn't mean anything. People act all kinds of different ways. Doesn't mean a thing. If you're a Christian, people are going to know because you're going to act really different from the norm. So leave off the Jesus fish. It makes me think you're going to do some kind of faith healing. Not cool. If you're a doctor, keep it sciencey, okay? In your professional life, just don't do the Jesus fish. But back to this Vitachrom thing. You have this woman with this tape measure, and oh my God, she's lost all this weight. She's got energy, and guess what? It's Veterans Day. We honor veterans. You can get it probably at a discount. But here's the problem. Yeah, it's a Mega B shot with some other chemical stuff in it. It's non-addictive and no caffeine. The problem is it's $20 worth of nothing for most people. It's only good for you if you have a vitamin B deficiency. And unless you're starving or you have some kind of weird disease, you're not vitamin B deficient. So you're wasting $20 a shot, or ever how much this thing costs. Another reason why this is largely a waste of money is because vitamin B, just like vitamin C, is a water-soluble vitamin, which means at the end of the day, when your body hits the max amount that it needs, the rest of it goes out through the kidneys in your urine. And this will make your urine look real bright yellow. You'll notice this anytime you get a vitamin B shot or you take these pills, you'll have real bright yellow pee. You are paying $20 or whatever it is a pop to have yellow pee. You're not getting energy, you're not losing weight extra because of this. That is the placebo effect. If you don't know what that is, go look it up. But basically it means you have this effect because you think you're going to have an effect. There's not anything really working except the power of your mind. So be real careful anytime you see one of these advertisements about these special vitamins, mega vitamins, stuff like that. You don't always get the benefit you think you're getting, and some overdoses of vitamins can be very dangerous. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat-soluble. If you take toxic levels of them for too long, they store up in your body and they can do harm. And you have to do quite a lot of that over a period of time, but still, you know, if you're having questions about your diet, if you're having questions about vitamin supplements, you need to talk to a doctor who's going to give you science-based advice. Alright? Science-based. And that sort of thing, you need to go with what's proven. So be very careful with vitamins. It is not something to play around with. And watch out for these bad ads.
This next segment is called Denominations in Dixie. And here again is Twinkie D.
Alright, today we're going to be talking about the largest of the Protestant denominations at 16 million members, I believe. It is the Southern Baptist Convention. I want to go back just for a second before, though, and tell you a little bit about the history, because, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of Southern Baptists down here really know their roots.
Most of them don't. They're born into it.
Exactly.
They die out of it, and they don't know anything of the history of it.
And that's a shame, because the Baptists have a very rich history and had a very powerful impact on the shaping of our nation that people like David Barton don't want you to know about, unfortunately.
Oh, do tell.
Oh, yes. It began over in Europe as a reaction to Catholicism, Anglicanism, that sort of thing. They practiced infant baptism, and the Baptists originally were called Anabaptist, which means baptized twice. It was used as an insult. It was a derogatory term, because these people didn't accept the validity of infant baptism. They believed that every person was responsible for their relationship with God, and that you could only come to that through your own free will and your own independent pursuit of knowledge of God. So therefore, they rejected the infant baptism.
You mean they had to actually think for themselves?
Yes, they had to reach a point where they could think and decide for themselves. Once you do that, then you become a candidate for baptism, which originally was sprinkling, and then it became full immersion. So that's why they were called Anabaptists, is because they were dunked twice. They rejected the infant baptism. And this was a huge thing. This was really radical in its day, because you have to remember Catholicism and Anglican, boy, that's a mouthful for a Southern girl. It has to do with the idea that, like with Catholicism, the church is responsible for your salvation, and you have to obey the church. Or if you do indulgences, you have to pay the church. And if you ever do anything that crosses the church, they'll kick you out and you'll go to hell.
Yeah.
And then over there in the Church of England, it was the king who was the head of the church. You piss off the king, you're excommunicated, you go to hell. The Baptists are like, no, screw that. Every person is responsible for themselves. This was a really radical notion. It did not go over well. As a matter of fact, Baptists were high on the list of Christians that were persecuted. And probably more of them were put to death than what people realize.
Now, when were they persecuted? When are you talking here?
It was all over in Europe. Because if you were not Anglican, if you did not obey the Church of England, you were an enemy of the state.
So this is after the Crusades?
Yes, this would have been after, with, what is it, King Henry? I forget, I don't know my history as well as I should. But after the schism, after the Protestant Reformation, when Martin Luther broke with the Catholic Church.
Okay.
So remember, if you piss off the Catholic Church,
you're out for good.
You've pissed off the Pope and the Vatican. You piss off the Church of England and the King, you're in trouble with the state.
Right.
For this reason, Baptists supported church-state separation very strongly.
Yes.
They believed in the freedom of conscience. They believed very much in church autonomy, that there should be no one person who was over all the states telling people, that they had to believe this particular way. I mean, yes, there were some doctrines that they held true, but everything was subject to the Scriptures, and at the end of the day, it was a person's responsibility. So, total separation of church and state. And you have Roger Williams working early in the days of America to support church-state separation. He was one of the first ones to actually mention the wall of separation. That's where Thomas Jefferson got some of his ideas from. And speaking of Jefferson, the Danbury Baptist churches had written to him because their state constitution in Connecticut, I believe, was not disestablished. I believe the Congregationalist church was in charge, and they were having to pay taxes to a church they didn't support. And Jefferson's like, well, we have this wall of separation here, and, when Connecticut comes under the banner of the federal government, then that's going to take care of that.
Yep.
People don't want to believe that today, and unfortunately you find a lot of Baptists who don't know their roots, and they don't understand, and they think there's no such thing as church-state separation, when actually their denomination had a large role in making that happen.
Well, a lot of things. In the history classes that you take in high school nowadays, they don't go into religion. That's kind of a taboo subject. So the only way you're going to get into the church-state separation issue is if you take a religious class or if you're in law.
Yeah.
Because those law is going to be one of the ones where you're going to have to know the difference between what's okay and what's not as far as the church is concerned.
Yeah, and that's a real problem because that should be part of our civics and our American history courses because, when you look at the European history and you get taught about all the evils of the Catholic Church and all the evils of the Church of England and the things that the king did, we don't mind bashing them, but when it comes to our history, we want this little pristine version that, the Founding Fathers went up on Mount Rushmore and received unto them the Constitution from the Lord God, and that's not what happened. It's far more complicated than that. It's far more interesting than that.
Yes.
But getting back to the Southern Baptist Convention, it was formed in 1845 because even though the Baptists had originally been very egalitarian, they believed males and females were equal, they believed that the races were equal, black and white, and the original Baptists worked very hard for manumission and the abolition of slavery. But the Baptists that were entrenched down here tended to be landowners and plantation owners that were pro-slavery. So in 1845, they split off and formed the Southern Baptist Convention so that they could retain slavery and biblically justified. After the war, the Baptists broke into black and white. A lot of the blacks, the freed slaves, were very attracted to it because of the autonomy. They didn't have to answer to anyone but themselves, and they felt like that was a good way to step away from the white man.
It gave them their own person.
Exactly, and then their own culture, and they were able to develop that. So after the war, it split between black and white, and it was only in 1995 that the SBC came out and said, yeah, that slavery thing, sorry about that, we screwed up.
Oops, sorry.
The problem with that is, even though there have been strides in desegregating the churches, most of the churches in this area are still heavily segregated. I remember as a child growing up in the 80s, we had a black teenager come to church one day, and you would have thought it was the end of the world. I mean, I even had people in my own family who were just horrified, that a black person would come and sit among us. It was just a thing not done. And unfortunately, we still have churches that are like that. They love to go out and tell everybody how, that's an issue of the past, and I'm not racist, I've got all these black friends, but we don't want them in the church.
It's a very uncomfortable feeling.
It is.
You could drive 2 blocks, and there'll be a white Baptist church, and 2 blocks from there, there'll be a black Baptist church.
And you can understand that because the cultures are very different. With the black churches, predominantly, you have a charismatic culture. They like to get up, sing, maybe shout. Even among the Baptists, they're very energetic in their worship. In my experience, white people worshiping in a Baptist church are kind of like going in and looking at a bunch of zombies or corpses. They sit there, they sing their old hymns, they listen to a boring sermon, and they go home. And I'm sure people have had experiences that are very different from that. I can only speak from my experience. I want to be really clear on that.
Yeah.
But my whole time growing up, the churches were dead. They were flat. I can't understand why anybody would want to go. Hope you guys are working on that and sorting that out. But the last thing I wanted to mention here was that in 1979 we did have the conservative resurgence among the Southern Baptists, and really I think this is the thing that, for me, destroyed the Southern Baptist Convention. The principles that they had really embraced that made them a good organization, the freedom of conscience, the autonomy, that has been eroded by the Southern Baptist Convention. Now they want to presume to speak for congregations. They want to try to tell people how they should think and how they should vote. They have come out publicly still in support of church-state separation, but they don't live up to that, I don't think. And most of the people sitting in the Baptist churches either don't understand or don't believe that separation exists. They don't know why it should. They think this is somehow a religious nation in government.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
I've noticed, too, that in the last 35 years that I can remember, I don't remember any articles where a Baptist church has taken to court or pleaded against some kind of separation.
Yeah.
If they are against it, it's very privately. It's not very public.
Yes.
If there is you always have the issues with the Ten Commandments at the schools, or in or on federal land, there is a religious item that's not supposed to be there because of the church-state separation laws. The Baptists are never, that I have known, seen on any of those arguments.
No.
Never brought to the attention. They're very quiet about it.
Or, what I've noticed is that most of the time they're blowing up Facebook and Twitter and everywhere they can get their hands on, crying and QQing about it. You're taking God out of government! Oh! Jeez! And the thing of it is, they're supposed to be for church-state separation. But they're not. And you know that because you can look at the leadership in the Southern Baptist Convention, and what are they doing? They're always on programs with the AFA, marching lockstep with them, pushing theocracy. So it's a really serious problem. And also, another thing that the SBC has come out officially on is the sanctity of life, that life begins at conception. And as we have seen from the vote on personhood, apparently not every Baptist believes that.
Right.
They don't believe that they should be forced to accept that to be a member of a Southern Baptist church.
Do we have the numbers on the number of Baptists in Mississippi?
I don't know off the top of my head, no.
I want to say it was over 40%.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this state is predominantly Southern Baptist.
So, okay.
So, yeah.
So, Southern Baptists, and 58% said no.
Yeah, so this vote is not just a sting to the AFA in particular, but also to the Southern Baptist Convention. because I know that preachers in Baptist churches locally were telling people how to vote, and then when the Southern Baptist people did not vote that way, they got berated and chastised the next night at church.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, that the Baptist church does meet on Wednesday nights.
Yes.
So it was surprising that we heard from some of our family and friends that they were being chastised about this the next day.
Yeah, and more than surprising, it's disgraceful because, like I said, the Baptists come from, I would call it an honorable tradition of supporting freedom and church-state separation, and they worked really hard for that, and now this generation is pretty much throwing it away. And,
right.
Again, I would say to any Southern Baptist out there who still believes in those principles, you're going to have to start speaking up in your congregations. You can't continue to sit in your pew and let the conservative resurgence just wash you away. If you want to stay true to your principles as a Baptist, I really recommend that you dig into your history of your denomination and find the things that are the best about it, and you need to work to educate your congregations. Yeah, some of them are going to turn on you like a pack of rabid dogs, but guess what? That's the price you pay. Everybody looking for an opportunity in their lifetime to make a difference and do something great, well, maybe this is your opportunity. So this has been a quick little wrap-up on the Southern Baptist Convention. Maybe not so quick, but
No.
Hope you learned something there. And if you have any questions or comments about this segment, you can feel free to email me at twinkied@gmail.com.
All right, our next segment here is the AFA Watch, where every week we bring you something AFA-related that needs to be brought to your attention.
And this week, we are going to bring to you a few clips from that wonderful man, Mr. Bryan Fischer. If anyone ever earned the title of King Clown of the Earth, as far as I'm concerned, it would be Bryan Fischer. He's the most disingenuous, vapid, pathetic excuse for anything that I can think of. I really just don't much care for the guy. So, without further ado, I'm going to play a few clips of Bryan Fischer, and you can hear about why Personhood failed in Mississippi, whose fault it is, and what he thinks about you.
So you had these gullible Christians, these naive Christians who were being guided, rather than being guided by conscience and Scripture, they were being guided by those from Planned Parenthood who make a literal killing, destroying the lives of unborn children.
Okay, so if you're a Christian who voted no, Bryan Fischer thinks you are naive and gullible. What's your take on that?
I thought it was very funny that he would say that when, just a little bit ago we read an article where we were called independent thinkers, that we had minds of our own, but now we're gullible.
Yeah, I think the AFA's position here is clear. If you don't agree with them, well, you're just stupid. You're just naive. You're just a tool of Planned Parenthood. Anything that you come up with that's not agreeing with them, well, you're automatically wrong.
A prime example of that was when Haley Barbour came out. The newscast said that he had, he had questions. There was ambiguity in it. I think it was within a few hours of that being broadcast, there was ads plastered up on the Yes side saying that he was taking money from the birth-control drug companies. And then within 72 hours, Haley Barbour does another press conference where he announces that he had voted absentee. He voted for the amendment.
Yeah, that was the next day, wasn't it?
I believe it was the next day. But it's like, okay, you're not agreeing with us? Well, we're going to just like smear you as bad as we can. Well,
yeah.
Way to jump the gun. He didn't even tell anyone how he voted.
Yeah, and guess what? It gets better. Listen to this clip.
So for those pro-lifers, those people of faith that voted against this thing, you just voted in line with Barack Obama. You just cast a vote that made Planned Parenthood ecstatic. You just cast a vote that made the White House come out and commend you. You cast a vote that puts you in league with Planned Parenthood and Barack Obama. And I got to tell you, that makes you both naive and gullible at the same time.
All right, harsh words there. All you folks that voted no, my God, you've made Barack Obama happy. What could be worse?
I don't know. And I love how they say that the Planned Parenthood is ecstatic. I have yet to see a statement officially by Planned Parenthood say anything on this matter.
Yeah. I mean, there may be some out there. I don't know. but they're not posting things all over the place gloating like Bryan Fischer says. And as far as ecstatic, I can only imagine they would be ecstatic in the sense that, whew, we dodged the bullet this time, because we know this is coming. In a lot of other states, we know that they're working on a federal amendment, and this thing is far from over. But it just amazes me how disrespectful the AFA is, even to their own audience. If you voted no, you're scum. You're just scum. You know, you have played into the hands of Barack Obama. He's evil or something.
He had made that remark about they made this little killing. Well,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong. What's the exact percentage that Planned Parenthood makes or does abortions? Like
3%.
3%.
3%.
Of all the
Yeah.
procedures and things that they get, that's how they make their money.
Yeah.
3%.
And
That's
it's so
ridiculous.
typical of the AFA that they're going to zero in on this 3% of abortions, which, keep in mind, our first trimester, they're almost usually all RU486.
Mhm.
You know, you take the pill, you go home, you have a heavy period, you get on with your life.
Right.
Okay, it's regrettable, it's sad in some cases, but, you know, these people seem to have these ideas that women go in, they have this vacuum cleaner, you know, stuck
Yeah,
up
that-
in them, you know.
That's the ugly
ridiculous.
imagery that the AFA and others anti-abortion,
Yeah.
that's the image that they like to put in your heads to
It
make you
is.
think it's that ugly.
And I'm not saying that there are doctors who never did that. I'm sure there have been cases. But
Technology
that
has
is
come
not the
a long
standard.
way.
Yeah, that's not the standard procedure. But they want to give you that graphic, and they keep using the word baby, you know, as if from the moment of conception it's fully formed baby. And you know, the issue is so much more complex than that. I don't care what Phil Bryant says. He thinks about how simple this is. It's not simple.
Here's something to think about. They say that at the moment of conception or fertilization.
Mhm.
Now, in vitro, they have an egg. They inject it with the sperm. No spontaneous life there, right? There's just a
Yeah.
combination of two cells meeting each other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, you know, you use your pipette and put some sperm in the dish and poof, a baby. Look,
Yeah.
it has a heart already, fully formed, ready to go. They give you this idea, and because they play on people's ignorance, and you can't afford to be ignorant.
No.
But, you know, in the world of the AFA and Bryan Fischer, ignorance is a thing to be prized as long as you vote the right way.
Yeah.
You know, it's a virtue if you, or as long as you're doing whatever they tell you to do. Let's listen to another clip where he talks about another reason why he thinks that personhood failed in Mississippi.
Now, there's a fourth contributor, I think, and that is personal guilt. Abortion, we've had some conversations around here, and came to kind of the rough and ready assessment that abortion has probably directly touched about half the population of Mississippi. And a lot of women in the state of Mississippi have had abortions, and of course there's a man on the other side of that equation every single time. Then you've got family members that are aware or know of the situation and so forth. So you have a lot of people in the state of Mississippi who have been directly touched by abortion. Now, if they made a tragic decision to terminate an unborn human life, they've got some unresolved guilt over that.
I don't even know how to respond to that. That's just outrageous.
Yeah, it is outrageous. Now Bryan Fischer accuses,
50%?
I don't know what percent, but a lot of Mississippi women
Well, he said
of having abortions.
50% have been affected by an abortions.
Okay, and he's talking about men too. I get that.
Now, is he doing the 6 ways to Kevin Bacon
Yeah,
thing?
I think he's doing a 6 degrees of separation. Like, well, you know, if you know someone who knows someone whose cousin had an abortion, then you've been affected by abortion. Okay, I'm going to tell you something.
Then that would be 50%. Sure.
I don't personally know anyone, you know, in my circle of physical friends. I'm not talking about on, you know, Facebook and everything, but I'm talking about in Mississippi.
Mm.
I don't know anyone who's had an abortion. Because I don't go around asking people and making that a condition of my friendship. I don't go around judging people and looking into their private life and their sex life trying to find a reason to hate.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not Bryan Fischer.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are women that I know who have had abortions. But I'm not aware that they do. Okay? And even if they do, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're suffering from some sort of personal guilt. It is ridiculous to think that every woman who has an abortion feels guilty. I know there are a lot of women who are on the Yes on 26 site who did claim that some of them had said they were raped and had an abortion. Some said that they had had an abortion for other reasons, and they bitterly regretted it. And I'm deeply sorry for them that they went through that. But I'm also sorry that they have allowed religious people to poison their minds and make them feel guilty. I'm sorry that they've accepted that. Because you shouldn't feel guilty if you do something that ultimately is going to help you and your family, if it's going to help you medically, if it's going to save your life. There's no reason to feel guilty. If you already have 2 or 3 kids and you can't afford another one, and you just got your pregnancy test, and oh gosh, the condom broke, or you didn't take the pill right, or whatever, that's regrettable. But guess what? You do what you got to do. And it may be that men like Bryan Fischer live in a world where they have the luxury and the privilege of worrying about every fertilized egg, but I hate to tell you, women don't have that privilege. We have to live with the consequences of this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so angry that men get off scot-free. It makes me angry because of all the women that have to bear the financial and emotional burden of unwanted children. It makes me angry for men who do the right thing, try to do the right thing, pay their child support, try to be a good dad, regardless of the circumstances, because deadbeat dads take away from them.
Yeah.
And those men are not recognized enough, and I know they have a lot of barriers to being the kind of dad they want to be. And it's very unfortunate. All this legislation, all these different things, never address the causes of abortion, the causes of the problem. They're not interested in fixing the problem. They want to control the outcome. And that's how you know these guys are not honest. And that's why they're calling you names, because they don't have anything factual to resort to. I'm going to play one last clip so that Bryan can tell you how he and the AFA are feeling. And for those of us who voted no, I just want to tell you, this is your moment to taste the sweet, sweet tears.
Now, there's no question this is a blow to the pro-life amendment. We shouldn't pretend otherwise. Just sick at heart over the results of this. A lot of us around here are just kind of very somber atmosphere here at AFA this morning, because there's no question. This is a big moment. It's like playing for the Super Bowl, and you lose in the Super Bowl. You lose the big game. And so there's no question it's like being hit right in the solar plexus.
And I got to tell you, Bryan Fischer, I've got absolutely no sympathy for your distress. Zero. You had no sympathy for anybody. Phil Bryant made it very clear he's got no real sympathies toward rape victims or to the people of Mississippi. I got no sympathy for you, buddy, and I got news for you. This is not the end, as you rightly state. It is the beginning.
Yeah, it's not the Super Bowl. Sorry. This is only preseason.
That's right. And we understand that this battle is won. The war is far from over. And I want to tell you right now, Bryan, we're coming for you. The AFA, we are going to be all over everything you say and everything you do and every little penny you spend in your little political action. We're going to be there. We're going to be watching. We're going to be reporting the truth, since you seem to have difficulty doing that. The same thing for our governor-elect, Mr. Bryant, for our congressman, for Mr. Don Wildman, who got up there on the stage and called us liars. We're coming for you. We're not backing down. We're not going away. We're not shutting up. We're going to tell people the truth about you. So either you start playing fair and you start doing right, or we're going to expose you for exactly what you are. Don't think you're going to like it, but I got no sympathy for you. Nathan?
No sympathy at all. All right, next segment would be the quote of the day, and then I would end the podcast with a reviewing thought. But I think we can wrap both of them up today in this one quote. It's brought to you by Thomas Paine, and I've seen it quite a bit lately, so I thought I'd share it again with everyone else. To argue with a person who has renounced the use of reason is like administering medicine to the dead. Thomas Paine.
Oh, right. And if you have any spare time to do any reading and you're interested in how this country really got started, Thomas Paine is the man you want to go to. He's one of my personal favorites. He was a deist and a free thinker, and he had some really good ideas about what it means to be free, and he knew how to communicate that to the average person. So, personal hero of mine, Thomas Paine. So, with that in mind, we hope you enjoyed today's show. Join us again next week.
Hopefully next week.
Yes, next week.
We got holidays and birthdays and all kinds of
right.
We got family stuff coming up for the next 2 months.
We do celebrate. Even though we're atheists, we celebrate holidays. Oh, my God. AFA's probably going to have a fit when they find that out.
Oh, my God. You said, oh, my God.
I did.
So silly.
But hopefully next week's podcast will be about some things very different from Personhood. We'd like to get in some episodes on some other things before we start our push against that. So,
and if you have requests or suggestions, please feel free.
Absolutely. Send us questions, comments, emails, anything that you might want us to cover. If you have concerns, if you live in this area, and you got something that you just want to sound off on, just get in touch with us. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, the blog, wherever. So, until next week, I'm Twinkie D.
And I'm Nathan Piccolo.
And y'all be good. The Deep Fried Freethinkers is a weekly podcast promoting skepticism and science education in the Deep South. Join us on Blogger, Facebook, and Twitter, and be sure to leave feedback on podbean.com. Music is by Kent Grincher on www.jimindo.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. Y'all come again next week for more deep fried fun.